Hey guys, and welcome back to another deep dive session. Today we're going to talk about working memory. For years, I tried to make myself or force myself to fit in to working in these systems that just didn't fit the way that my brain functioned. So trying to do that for so many years, it led me to burnout. And not just once, it happened twice. But the conversation today that I want to talk, the focus is about the story and the method that I used in order to come back to be able to function. Um, and that is after applying the science behind like cognitive replenishment and AuDHD strategies and just, putting that into incorporating that into my personal and professional life. Now I'm going to give you a brief overview and I'm going to share some of the science behind it as well as I'm going through them. Okay, we're going to start off with the foundation, which is a 15-minute unit time that I built the foundation off of. And this is not arbitrary. There's a reason why I built it that way. All right. So the science behind this one, working memory is limited and it has a limited capacity and it fatigues under prolonged, unbroken demands and attention. So like super hyper focus depletes it a lot. And structuring it in shorter bursts of focus, it actually helps reduce or prevent cognitive overload because doing that creates natural reset points. Now, obviously, from firsthand experience, struggling with time perception is a very, very big challenge. So externalizing a lot of this really helps alleviate or open up a lot of that space for me to process information. Task chunking them together, basically pairing things together, really is a key strategy in this system. Now, I know I mentioned replenishment. Replenishment is another it's another building block that's core to the system. It's scheduling moments of rest, reset, depending on the activity that I'm doing. So if I'm learning something, it's going to take up a lot more bandwidth and I'm going to need a very specific type of reset. It's about being strategic before your battery is completely empty. So it's resetting it before you get to the red zone. Like I mentioned before, it's fun stuff as well. So novelty and breaks. I have to build in breaks, downtime, reset time, and fun tasks in between to help offload some of that cognitive overload when you're doing something that it's very dense, like you're learning something very dense that requires a lot of mental focus and strength, or having to struggle and deal with the things that you just don't want to do. Days where I'm really, really low down on energy to do that, I put my headphones on, I put on a podcast that I've been really wanting to listen to, and that helps me kind of tune out that I don't feel like doing this, and I kind of just naturally go through it. And now the science behind why this works. So basically novelty, it stimulates dopamine, and dopamine is a neurotransmitter, a key neurotransmitter that's involved in motivation and attention. And this is very dysregulated. This is often very dysregulated with people who have ADHD or AuDHD. Now, doing what I had mentioned, it actually helps restore some of the capacity of your working memory. So it allows me to return to whatever task I was doing with improved focus instead of trying to push through it and just depleting and depleting and depleting. Another foundational block is sensory regulation in your environment. Now, I put in practice wearing noise canceling headphones because it really helps me focus. I'm very sensitive to sounds and noises, and I put up a partition where my desk is at because visual clutter also is very distracting for me. And these are simply just tools that I'm using in order to promote a space in where I can actually focus. I'm giving my brain the fighting chance to actually engage with what I want it to instead of being distracted by all these environmental factors. So this one I'm going to read it to you because it's a little bit more wordy and I'm going to have trouble with it. So the science behind doing or putting these in practices. So the autistic and the AuDHD brain can have heightened sensitivity to sensory input. Or they call it sensor reactivity. And unmanaged, this acts as a constant noise, which consumes working memory resources. So if I'm actively trying not to pay attention to something that's distracting me, it's also depleting resources. And reducing irrelevant sensory load frees up cognitive space for the task at hand, which if I'm not hearing anything else, I'm not seeing anything else, I can actually focus on what I'm trying to get done. I used to think this next one was super counterintuitive and it used to bug me so much, but people would recommend take breaks, get up and move, stimulate your blood circulation. And it used to annoy the bejesus out of me, but it really works. And I've incorporated it now that I'm older and wiser and have a little bit more experience. And so basically the way that I structured my day is I task chunk it by room and I basically stagger those chunks of tasks throughout, making myself get up and move around. It has helped so much. And I can't believe that I was so against it for such a long time, but there you go. The more you know. So now I'm going to read this one again for you. So the science: physical movement increases blood flow to the brain and can trigger a shift in a cognitive state. This act of context switching through location helps clear the mental workspace, effectively wiping the whiteboard for the next task. There you go. Next, it's a big one. It's nutrition and hydration. And let me tell you, I think this is an active struggle for a lot of people, but I can share that it has been an active struggle with me because I genuinely, if I didn't schedule times to actually eat or set reminders or timers or visual cues to drink water, I would, and I'm hyper focused on something, I would forget that I haven't done that all day. And then I will feel like crap. It is very bad. It is very depleting. So because of this, I have a very hard rule. It doesn't matter what time I get up. I could get up super early, super late. I will not start working or like getting into anything that requires hyper focus until I've had breakfast, because going into the day with a dysregulated system is a recipe for disaster. If I'm already depleted and I go in and I don't consume the resources that I need to, it's almost like a sure recipe for a meltdown later in the day. All right, the science behind it. The brain is metabolically expensive. Dehydration and low blood sugar directly impair cognitive function, concentration, and emotional regulation, which is what I meant to say before, emotional regulation. Productive fueling stabilizes the biological foundation your working memory runs on. Food is fuel, people. Food is fuel, especially for neurodivergent folks like myself. So another key block that I had to include is being realistic. Time blindness and time, I've struggled with time management a lot. Certain tasks, there's certain strategies that I put in place, like task chunking, that actually helps me keep track and manage. So if it's something like paying bills that I don't want to do, I'll pair that, and right after that, I'll do something like finding new music on a playlist, because I have to sit at my computer to do both. And that actually helped me. The science behind that one, it's something called the Premack principle or Grandma's rule. I had never heard that before until I started researching it. But basically, it's pairing something less probable with something more probable to make it easier to complete the less probable thing. And it also helps with the motivation cycles. I know motivation is not a constant state. You constantly, it's something that's going to need fuel, constant fuel. So if you're looking forward to something, that's a little bit of fuel for some motivation. So pairing an exciting thing with a not so exciting thing back to back, it helps. Then my time calculator. Time calculator has come in clutch so much because of what I mentioned before. And here's the science behind it. It directly combats time blindness, which, like I mentioned before, it's a common trait for ADHD and AuDHD brains. It externalizes time estimation, reducing the working memory load, working memory, required for planning and preventing the frustration and shame of missed deadlines. That shame spiral is real. So, which themselves can be cognitively depleting. And I can 100% back this up, because it happened to me. It happens to me sometimes too, especially when I'm building something new or incorporating something new. Now, this is a system. The system basically is alive. It's going to evolve with me, and change and be adapted and introduce new things as I learn new things, new strategies, and have more experiences. This just worked as a great reminder to help me understand and remember that, cognitive, which is the working memory, what we were talking about today, by emotional and physical resources, everything is connected. Everything affects one another. There's no one of those systems stands in a silo by itself or functions properly by itself. Everything is interconnected. And building a lot of these strategic, science-backed strategies and methods into basically the foundation of my system, it's not just a recovery tool from burnout, but it's actually creating a sustainable professional and personal life system for my neural type that's sustainable, that's scalable, that's flexible. Now, just like with anything else, it's going to be a work in progress, and it's going to constantly evolve, like I mentioned before. But the goal is not perfection; it's resilience. It's to make it to build something that's sustainable. And now that I understand the why, I can actually adapt the how. You see how that works? The why plus the how is a system that's custom built for you, or in this case, me. Thanks so much for joining, you guys. I really appreciate you being here. Again, if you guys want to connect, please check out my Linktree. It has all of my socials on there. You can always go to my website, www.sblconsultingsolutions.com, and shoot me an email. And remember to come back next week for another deep dive episode. But until then, happy planning.